Welcome to the Red Pill Dispensary. We're going to try something new, very sensitive info. So, our friend Paul the computer will basically be reading you something I wrote. I wrote it. It took me a long time to write it. I didn't really edit it, but there's a lot of great information in it. You will definitely get something out of it, even if you think you know the difference between mis and disinformation. You know what I'm saying? Trust me, there's some that you will get something out of this video. There's a lot of information. At the beginning, I try to soften it up, kind of tell from the first person, personalize it a little bit, and then I really get deeper. Just if you guys will see, I hope it turns out okay. So, Red Pill Dispensary, um, trying something new. This is in preparation for the video that I'm going to be doing. Probably Friday. Probably Friday. And we're doing that video. We'll have the whole studio set up, and we're not going to do it here. I'm going to come on here like this. Say, hit the link in the description. You guys hit the link. It'll bring you right to maybe Rumble. I don't know what. I'm not going to say where I'm going to do it, but I kind of did. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna do it somewhere where all you gotta do is click the link, and we are gonna talk raw. But it's very important you get this information first, and it's very interesting as well. Also, I want to go on Friday. We're also gonna be going into the origins and what's happening with Telegram, the owners, their connections. It is crazy. We're talking uh, and how can I even? I gotta be careful, but it's very interesting. All right, the Middle East, the most powerful intelligence organization in the Middle East, mixed with the old KGB type that country. Okay, it's very interesting. The origins and what else is going on with Telegram, and also who they're connected with and what they're trying to do. I'll just give you an example. A new company coming out. I had read all the patents. Water Gen. This is great for India. That's the third country. So India, I'll just say India, Russia, Israel. All right. There's a lot. What people don't understand is that in the Soviet Union, they didn't allow Jews to immigrate wherever they wanted. They weren't allowed to. Yet Israel had, anyone who is Jewish, you can be a dual citizen. So there's actually more Russian Jews in Israel than there are in the Soviet Union, but a lot of them still, go back and forth. St. Petersburg is a big one where they go back and forth. And this is nothing about the people of that religion, by the way. They just happen to be, and I'm more talking about the intelligence agency and what they're doing in connections with Russia. Now, they all have powerful militaries, but this is more so private companies. And there's this one guy, another guy, same origin that I just talked about, but he's doing it in India. He's turning air into water. I mean, if you want to buy a stock, check out Water Gen. I don't know if they're on the market yet, but it's coming. They're coming big time. They're turning water into air. They're changing. I mean, listen, they can cut the food. You can go a while off food. There's a lot you can do to stay alive. But they control the water. You're screwed. And if they're turning air into water, they can do it. Basically, put it this way: they can make the water turn to air. You know what I'm saying? Make it this. It's bad news. And you look at the origins, and they're all connected with Telegram, which happens to be the most amazing app to collect information in one place at one time in a matter of 15 minutes. You can download, if you're following the right people, you can get all types of information. You just spend 15 minutes, you get all types of information. But there's some connections that we're going to talk about also on Friday in connection with all of this disinformation. All right. Enjoy. Again, this is the Red Pill Dispensary. I know it's late. You guys are probably watching this tomorrow. Anyone live? Here's a little treat for you. I hope it works out right.
I've been writing for like 6 hours, so I'm just saying off the top I was trying to copy and paste to make it a smoother story, and I tried to add some first-hand stories to make it lighter of a read, but although I did that and I think it worked, I also made the story jump around just a little bit, but you shouldn't have a problem. Enjoy. The best way to start what I would like to call a discussion, it's a discussion of something that is happening in the world, and especially our country, at an exponential rate that in only a few years it will be too late for mere humans to fix, and that is the dangers of disinformation versus misinformation. Even if you think you know that answer, trust me, you will definitely get something out of this. It's long, so read it in 2 or 3 settings, but it's one of those readings there's no way you're not gonna take a lot away from it that will honestly stick with you, and it's extremely interesting. And I try to add in a lot of first-hand, especially in the first half, to help it move along and tell things from the first person and stories. But eventually I gotta get down to how exactly it's going on. It's going on definition and practical use-wise, which I do more so in the second half. Anyways, I can't think of a better way to start this than with this very powerful quote from a real-life James Bond. If he actually existed, what he would probably be like. The man who makes this is William Casey, and he said it in 1981 as the CIA director, so we are talking the top of the food chain of the world. Some people think the CIA director, because of the secrecy, and especially back then, was just as powerful as a president. The public budget they had was tremendous, but forget about what their black budget must have been, and they were much more powerful than they are now in comparison, because now we have the NSA, which handles so much of the percentage of the workload of segment, which is exactly what I did in the Navy. And had I stuck with that career, basically the NSA was the only place left for me to go. But it was hard for me to hold on to the top secret clearance once I was out of uniform, to be honest, and I beat myself up about it, but at the same time I probably would have turned out to maybe not be as good as a person, or at least that's what I tell myself based on the money I could have been making versus what I do. Lol. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. William Casey, CIA Director, 1981. So yeah, he really said that. It's just back in 1981 not every word you said was part of news, because it was like an hour, not 247 on every channel, so they had a lot more privacy, and we're a lot more honest, I'm sure, and these types like to brag, especially when they know they're gonna pull it off, and let's be honest, they have so far, and with the smartphone it's no wonder it's about as cheap as any utility to have. Despite having the same, if not more technology than the space shuttle that went to the moon, supposedly went to the moon, and they lost the telemetry data, they say, but that sounds a little off to me. Of course, but imagine they actually did go, but they had to fake the footage, because the film wouldn't work up on the moon. That's the theory that was coming from Kubrick. I heard the famous filmmaker who also made Eyes Wide Shut, and they claim if it was faked, at least if the footage was fake, that he was the one who shot it. That's the theory. Anyways, I just had to share how open they were about it only 30 years ago at the highest level of the CIA, the director. And a lot of people hear the word disinformation, but a lot of times they get it mixed up with misinformation, and they don't know how drastically different the two are, and if they do know, they don't know how deep the disinformation goes. Well, you're able to find out all of that and much more. I wrote this for 6 hours just to try to sleep, which I didn't out of anger, because I'm so pissed and I shouldn't write out of anger and it doesn't come off Like that I promise, but it's definitely motivated me. I am ashamed with America lately, well, not America but Americans. Our fathers and grandfathers did so much to hand us a country of our own. Well, we have our own constitution that is very powerful and for the people, and no matter how hard they try, it's the biggest obstacle they have as far as the globalists and billionaires go. But trust me, they are getting close, and we are the last wolf. It's what first if it's a printo strike, which who knows what the jab is for real. All I know is it's only begun, and when I say begun I mean just begun, and that's why I'm back making videos. And I was supposed to make a video about the disinformation topic I'm doing, but I just couldn't sleep without getting it off my chest. So that's exactly what I'm doing. But before I start, instead of just having a negative, I just want you guys to hear what real Americans used to sound like. And of course I'm not talking about anybody here negatively activity. I mean, if you are here watching this, I'm in this, you're probably similar minded about the whole situation as I am and see the same things that I do. I'm just surprised that the left is 100% the other way, just because they travel at higher rates, so they understand how unique our country is as far as freedoms and what we were passed downer in the way you pass down a will and some kid gets rich at 22 or something, or pass down your clothes to your little brother. No, this is passed down with blood and sacrifice in almost every generation, and my family is full of veterans. My father, my uncles, cousins, myself, and so is Amanda's. So my daughter has a history of men that are veterans on both sides. But you don't have to be a veteran to be a good American, or at the very least appreciate your rights. But you know what, with the president we have now, the type that leaves thousands of Americans behind enemy lines and Afghanistan, and takes the military out before he secures the citizens, not just a few but tens of thousands. Well, I guess if there was ever a time I wouldn't argue as hard, it would be under this sky. But like I said earlier today, I think this is just so bad at this point that it was basically designed to go this way, to expose them and force them to commit more crimes, which they have, while people like Barr and Space Force and NSA and MI as a whole sat back and collected data. Maybe it's a pipe dream to keep veterans like myself from taking any action. Well, the action I'm taking is going to be speaking out, and that's about the most courageous act you can do these days. People just don't do it anymore. So before we get to the material, I wanted you guys to hear this quote, so that at least we can start with a positive quote as well as the other one. Neither let us be slandered from our duty by false accusations against us, nor frightened by menaces of destruction to the government, nor of dungeons to ourselves. Let us have faith that right makes might, and in that faith, let us, to the end, dare to do our duty as we understand it. Abraham Lincoln. Isn't that beautiful? Do you guys see why I picked it, especially following that very bleak future set forth by the CIA director William Casey in 1981? It is quite amazing for a president during such a tough time to be able to come up with such powerful words that obviously we're coming from a wise man who had been through a lot and just had a lot of reflection and sense of duty, and took the presidency serious. Maybe a bunch of you have heard that. I've heard a lot of his, but I never heard that one, so it really hit me when I heard it. It really honestly does give you a peek at the man he was. There is actually a famous rapper who says something very profound, is Lil Wayne. So you might be laughing, but he does say something profound in my opinion when he says wisdom is bleak, and that's a word for the wise. L was extremely impressed when I first heard that line from his album Carter 3, and some of you guys, most of you might not know it, but you could appreciate the I'm sure because a lot of you are intelligent, or you're just not into this content, and at the same time wisdom. And the more we learn, especially as truth, or who are really on a quest for true wisdom. Let me just tell you from experience, if you think it's going to bring you any type of happiness, and that's for some reason why you're seeking truth, I'm here to tell you right now that's not the case. It's quite often the opposite. Another way of putting that is ignorance is bliss. It's almost like if someone is not wise or have wisdom, then they walk around happy whistling, because they're not a thinking critic and correctly all the time type of person, always pondering things because that type of person who, like Lincoln, was usually suffers from depression, or in general they are just not a happy-go-lucky type. And I know his mother, I mean wife, had it really bad to the point she was a big problem, and I think they called it melancholy back then. But he was holding together a country, he had lost children, he was holding together a wife who couldn't keep it together mentally at all, which is what I'm going to. And personally he understood so much, but just had his duty to take care of, and he understood that he could vocalize it, but he just couldn't be happy. So that might be one of the only times you hear me say Lil Wayne said something extremely profound, but in that lyric I think he did wisdom is bleak, and that's a word to the wise. But of course the amazing President Abraham Lincoln's quote was that much better. In this comment article discussion, which went admittedly much longer than I intended but came out very well and is worth every word, and I promise everyone will get something out of it very valuable. It was supposed to be what the show was about on Friday night, but when I got no responses I thought they were shadow banning me, so I just went live, but by the end of my life I had a lot of people, so I should have just done it, but then again it worked out okay like this because putting it in writing worked out because it's just so complex, and this way you can go back and reread if you want. You can in multiple sittings. I will cover two main topics
I'll
that
copy
ultimately
and post
intertwine
it in
and
the
are one of the
description
same.
afterwards.
It's not the happiest thing I ever wrote. In fact, ever since I started thinking about this tonight I haven't been able to sleep, so I started writing about it because it correlates perfectly with what I was going to talk about had last night's show gone on as planned. The timely and crucial information is so important that you basically need to understand it in order to move forward on this channel. The good news is that this is the type of comment or article, or whatever you want to call it, that will stick with you a very long time, not only because of how raw and truthful and accurate it is, but because of the parallels I will draw with the other topic that I talk about in this article, which happens to be all of our favorite, most daring, truth-telling patriot YouTuber. If the face was not enough, the other topic, and ultimately the main topic, is the difference between misinformation and disinformation. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I know the difference, so why are you the difference? So I read this long article, but I promise you to command this from so many different angles and share experiences and a lot of knowledge in this article, because I am writing the beginning, which is this right here last, so trust me when I say it's worth it, and you will definitely get something out of it regardless of your level of familiarity with the subject. It almost actually worked out better that I did it this way, where people can take their time and read it, or go back and read a second time if they have to, or refer to it when they need to, instead of
And I'll copy and
trying
paste
to
it in the
explain on the
description.
fly on a
I'll make a
video,
link.
which tonight's video just on Afghanistan alone, there was so many points I meant to add that I kept getting distracted. I guess it's just been a while for me, and tonight's show will be a real show, and you'll finally see all the equipment back in action again. As
Every
I mentioned,
Friday.
I will on a couple occasions use a random YouTube, or that you can fill in your head who that may represent to you, but because of the importance of the subject as well as how dangerous it can be, I couldn't help but let who I was thinking of bleed through the words enough that you might figure it out.
You guys know who I'm talking
This
about.
ended up being quite the read, but was only intended to fill in for, expand on, and explore what the topic for last night's show was supposed to be, since it's vital going forward and fully understanding it's not only the intel I hope to put forward, but the type of tactics we are up against as everyday people that leave others alone, but especially as of late our government has been becoming is exponentially more intrusive, dictatorial, and looking to take our rights. To be clear to those who seem happy to give away their rights just as they were after 9/11 with the Patriot Act, I believe people like you enjoy being controlled and almost need that, but for the others who truly, because of the MSM, believe is that they are a bad person if they don't do what everyone else is supposed to do, and that you are not doing your human D1QPT by not getting an unapproved experiment out in the arm, which we now know doesn't even stop you from spreading it anyway or getting it Please first consider how sick those people on TV are for making you feel that way about something experimental or mental that doesn't do either of its jobs, and now want to push it on your kids and forced to feel different and wear something over their face making them different from the other kids, as if you forget what it's like and how cruel kids can be. I honestly believe more than half of the people who have, let's say, gone the whole way to protect themselves is purely due to disinformation, and well, more disinformation just in a different fashion than normal. The other form is similar to what I just explained, where it's like everyone is doing it and you're the only one night in that type of social peer pressure they understand very well by now in 2021 with all the studies of human behavior by psychologists and behavioral psychologists that they literally have it down to one of the most complete and well understood and accepted science's answers, especially with the latest advancements on watching the brain react, and unfortunately some of the less ethical experiments that they do that on this channel we have touched on a few times, but it never comes out lighter of a read. But although I did that and I think it worked, I also made the story jump around just a little bit, but you shouldn't have a problem.
Hold on,
Enjoy.
sorry.
The best way to start what I would like.
I was just going to pause it and say what I was just talking about there. By the way, this is about as best as I can get it. I wrote this, especially the beginning. I just did talk to text and wrote it, so it comes out not exactly right. But what I wanted to say is one of these studies that we talked about on this channel, it was really hard to get through. Remember the human mice they were using from Planned Parenthood? You guys can figure out what they used, and they put it in the mice and grew the organs, and they basically had these like hybrids. It just got reported on finally a couple weeks ago. A story came out. We talked about that about a year and a half ago. That's in particular what I was talking about there. But okay, about these in particular what we pointed out on this channel. Okay.
Enjoy. The best way to start what I would like to call a discussion. It's a discussion of something that is happening in the world, and especially our country, at an exponential rate that in only a few years it will be too late for mere humans to fix, and that is the dangers of disinformation versus misinformation. Even if you think you know that answer, trust me, you will definitely get something out of this. It's long so Although finally this is unrelated, but last week I heard about the mice with fetus organs growing in their bodies for the purpose of donating, basically, which was a story I covered very painfully 2 years ago. You can go back and find it. It definitely has mice and fetus. Is it fetus or something like that? Baby. But I would search for mice. I don't know how many videos
Go to my channel, search for
the word mice, so that would be a good search. So anyways, back to the subject of disinformation, and we'll do several more as well as define and show its applications, plus much more. But as simple as missing information is, it just means wrong information. It's just not wrong with the intent to fool or deceive you. However, it is key to remember the difference. In the easiest way for me to do that is people who listen to misinformation are afterwards misinformed. I guess off the top of my head, people who listen.
If you listen to misinformation, you're misinformed. It's just wrong information. Whereas the disinformation, that is basically what we're being bombarded with in 1,000 different ways, where it's to deceive. And like William Casey said in 1981, our mission will be complete when there is no way to be able to decipher the actual truth. Something like that. I kind of butchered it, but that I put the quote at the beginning. This better go back to where it was. If it doesn't, I can figure out how to do it. It's the same working, right?
I knew something would happen. All right. It's good now. I'm just going to. And it jumps around, so it's kind of. I wish I had edited it, but it's so long. But I'm telling you, if you stick with it, especially towards the end, it's good information. I just hope it comes out right. What the fuck? Alright, here we go. There we go. This is so weird. Alright, here we go. Have a backup. This one sucks. I knew this would get screwed up somehow. I knew it. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have to do this a different way, guys. I think I thought I had it figured out. There are two different things. Right here. Come on.
The word mice, so that would be a good search. So anyways, back to the subject of
There we go.
disinformation, and we'll do
Female
several
voice.
more as well
This
as
is
define and show its applications plus much more, but as simple as missing information as it just means.
Alright, here we go.
Wrong information, it's just not wrong with the intent to fool or deceive you. However, it is key to remember the difference, and the easiest way for me to do that is people who listen to misinformation are afterwards misinformed. I guess off the top of my head, people who listen to disinformation are dissed, but let's be honest, the misinformation example is much better and an easy way to remember misinformation opposed to disinformation. Which, to help better understand, just think misinformed, wrong or false information basically, and to stay on the same topic as the disinformation example, the example I will give from painfully 2 years ago, you can go back and find it. It definitely has mice and fetuses at fetus, or something like that, baby, but I would search for mice. I don't know how many videos I have to have. The word mice, so that would be a good search.
This is crazy. Alright. It starts playing, of course.
So anyways, back to the subject of disinformation, and we'll do several more as well as define and show its applications plus much more, but as simple as missing information is it just means wrong information. It's just not wrong with the intent to fool or deceive you. However, it is key to remember the difference, and the easiest way for me to do that is people who listen to misinformation
Sorry,
are
it's
afterwards
repeating,
misinformed. I guess off the top of my head, people who listen to disinformation are dissed, but let's be honest, the misinformation example is much better and an easy way to remember misinformation opposed to disinformation. Which, to help better understand, just think misinformed, wrong or false information basically, and to stay on the same topic as the disinformation example, the example I will give for misinformation. Information is when Dr. Fauci went on TV, and well, you know what, I was going to give an example, but just realized it's actually disinformation as well because they basically just doing a lot of that in the ad. And the example I was giving was when he first said we did not have to wear masks and only doctors should, and that they are not helpful to the regular citizen. Some of you might not even remember that it seems like a lifetime ago, and he has reversed that opinion so quickly, but the reason he gave for reversing it and the reason it is disinformation is not because I am making an argument if masks work at all or not, but because the only reason he didn't recommend them, and has ever since, is because China had bought up the world's mask supply, so they had to be kept for the doctors supposedly. So I stand corrected, that is another case of disinformation. I will just give you a quick misinformation and then we are going to start getting a lot deeper and realer. I don't know if you guys remember some Canadian who used to like to make videos talking crap to me, and he was very annoying, and as many have thought and learned their lesson purely intellectually. That happens a lot, and I'm not bragging at all, I'm only making the point because my accent makes me sound a lot different, on top of the fact that I'm a veteran and was a jock athlete type in high school, but I was always deep down nerdy at heart. I even would fail classes on purpose and then get A's and B's in the fourth quarter to pass for the year. That was how cool I thought it was to not be smart or interested in school.
Yeah.
I just hope my kid ends up in a better school system that can recognize kid who is dumb going through 4 years of high school. But I'm totally getting off topic. I don't even know why I brought that up. Well, yes, I brought it up because he kept challenging me and I just wouldn't talk to him because I didn't want to have the fight, and I took the advice of what we all have in common of on Carmen, and this is what I was getting at. I wasn't so smart as a kid, common sense wise, and it's just a theory of mine that is not something you are just born with or not like most other things. I believe that is nurture, not nature, because I was forced to live through a lot of craziness and heartache that I could have avoided, but by learning the hard way it has helped me later in life. Have, despite what a few think who don't understand internet and just watch the local news and have no idea that access to information they could have and learn, but I am generally, I believe, a rational person that is a realist. It's very hard to BS me, and I have no interest in BSA anyone else, because who has time for such unproductive endeavors that bring nothing but negativity and bad feelings. He knew his type right away. It's the type who goes to conspiracy first and only, and when you think like that, you eventually are going to convince yourself that nothing is a conspiracy. Eventually you are going to be proven wrong so many times you are going to stop asking those so very important questions that we ask on this channel. And I tried to explain to the kid, this is not a conspiracy theory channel. I understand at first glance it can seem that way sometimes, but when you get to know a lot of the regular listeners, they range from scientists
Correct.
to historians to quantum physicists. We have more than one teacher who watches on a regular basis, mothers, fathers, laborer. But what always made us truly strong as an online community was our similarities, not our differences. And it does, and I would say most, because I don't want to say all, and I know I definitely have lost a lot of subscribers being so open about my born again Christian views in particular, but I also want to make clear I am 100% open to everyone being here. That's the whole point of having the views I have, is today to treat everyone like you want to be treated. The golden rule is the base of almost all religions, and I enjoy people for the most part, so as long as you follow that one rule, no matter what religion, or if you have any religion, then I will be more than happy to be in your company. But this one stereotypical Canadian I did not enjoy too much, and he kept running his mouth and you guys kept telling me not to respond, but then he made about 4 videos in a week about me and was saying some really disgusting stuff. He found out I had a side that was particularly mean, to be honest, and I think he was off guard at first, especially being from Canada, and I am talking about God, and he just didn't expect the Boston accent to get so thick with so many crosswords. I think that he didn't know what to do, so finally I got him to stop acting childish and just debate me, and he was supposed to pay me a bunch of money if I was right, but the point is he was a 100% convinced there was no virus. He wasn't arguing that they had not isolated it, which would have been a better argument, but he was saying there is no virus. I am pretty positive that is misinformation information. He wasn't intending on tricking. I'm tricking people. I could tell he was putting a lot on the line basically. His whole reputation just told. Reputation just to pick out one person and go after them, because I was talking about the virus as early as December of 2019, so at least he was talking about it early as well.
Before I get into disinformation.
I have seen nothing but evidence showing that the virus is real. I know people who died, all of it, but I will give my but. Scenario. Do you remember I mentioned the 3 letters earlier, but they were the 3 letters, the 3 letters before the letter that I meant, so basically just say the letter after each of those. OQ now.
PCR.
Again, I don't consider this a conspiracy theory channel. I'd like to think of it as a channel with people who think outside of the box, like to ask questions and generally get answers, even more so. Answers that shock most people, especially the type that just go with the grain, which happens to be a lot of the smartest people we have in this country at the universities, and then when they're done at the university, they get a job in academics at the university and their lives are very safe and non-inventive or interesting, so they would never come up with some of the ideas I do despite being so much more intelligent. Okay, feel like I have to say one more time I made the whole argument. There is a virus, but like I said, there was a smoking gun, and I think it's that test, and it's for many reasons I was suspicious of it from the beginning, just based alone on how the media kept asking about the tests, which makes sense to a point, but I could almost tell there was more to it in their plan because I was still not sure what to make of it then. I kind of forgot about it as it seemed very legit after a few months. With all the type of disinformation that is much more common is the propaganda used to make things like the virus seem much worse than they are, like keeping the death count in the corner. But eventually they realized it would be much smarter since doctors were getting much better. Instead of using ventilators all the time and killing people. Not to mention the governors of New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and California decided they had taken care of enough elderly to get the numbers to a scary enough point to establish the fear they needed. I feel awful and like a sicko, even saying that, but that is what the real evidence shows. That is actually what these twisted degenerates did. 2 of them are already out on much lesser charges than crimes against humanity energy, but I guarantee all 5 I will eventually have to face the charges, because the manner in which they did it was wittingly, bringly, and with orders. A 10-year-old would tell you not to put COVID patient back in the nursing home, and personally the only person I knew that died it was here in Massachusetts, where we have a Republican but rhino governor who honestly are the type I like the least. I would rather a Democrat than a rhino. At least I know what I'm looked down on with. No, I'm not hearing anything about this governor. However, my daughter's grandfather or great-grandfather, but Amanda's grandfather, who raised her as her father and was a Marine for many years and fought the entirety of the Korean War and was a great man all around, who was having some trouble remembering things, but physically should have lived another 6, 7, 8 years, and I should ask her permission before sharing this, but all I'm going to say is he unfortunately passed but over a month after he contracted COVID, so what that truly means I have no idea. All I know is he was in a nursing home, and that was the worst place a human being could have been during a pandemic. Surprisingly, it's so obvious that it should have been the most secure and safe, knowing they are most at risk. But anyways, I'm done with that topic. I'm just making a point about disinformation and some real life recent forms it has taken and how truly powerful it really is. I still have so much to go. I haven't even begun to define these words, yet I thought it would be better to start with examples other than our favorite YouTuber. We've already gone over several different examples of different examples of different examples of different examples of different examples. However, I never forgot what I learned in particular from David Icke, and he is one of those who says there is no actual virus, that this test was never designed to test for this and for this, and there is no test for this coronavirus. I still didn't truly believe it. Then Trump kept talking about how it was going to go away as soon as he was either out of office or 1 ampere second term, and sure enough, on January 21st they lowered the amount of cycles, meaning the amount of times they amplify the virus in an exponential way. It's an exponential way, so think of the virus under a microscope, but you have it to the 40th power, which is exactly what the inventor said never to do with it, and explained how somebody could easily pull a fast one on people and falsely diagnose a pandemic without treating this particular test with that respect and never going past a certain number of cycles. So sure enough, the day after Trump is out, they lower it from 40 to 20 cycles. They literally cut it in half and then started a little victory parade of 30 Parade, of course, they waited a couple months, but it looked like he had taken the virus out, but there were way too many people out there like myself, who remembered every word they said and every word. People I respect like David, and the owner and inventor, I should say, of that test, who ended up dead a couple years ago, by the way, in a suspicious manner. Now I'm just telling this story to break up the very wordy long disinformation thing with some interesting info. You may or may not have heard I've been gone so long, but basically now they're saying that they shouldn't use that test at all, and they claim by, but I think November or something like that, maybe December, they are supposed to have a test just for the virus, but a lot of people are skeptical it will, especially now that they are asking questions about why did you stop using that test that we have based everything off of after cutting the cycles
The test is the
in half.
smoking gun.
So the bottom line and the relation to that whole story to this story is, although one may think some things, missing information like I do a lot of times, especially today, it turns out it's disinformation at permission. As wild as it seems, and as impossible as it seems, it is a possibility, and like I was saying on this channel, we do stick to facts. It's just most people don't realize what the real facts are in life, sometimes, especially with some of this deeper stuff. Okay, so I tried to make that light and talk from the first person. Now we're going to start diving much deeper diving, but where are the channels talk about Christianity all the time to get a certain audience, then once they get that audience, it turns into a totally different thing, and it turns out they are not Christian one bit. And I am not one to tell people they don't have beliefs that they say they do, but with this guy, it's obvious, and his track record on truth telling is not so good, which is why he
You guys know who I'm talking
was perfect for this conversation.
about.
He and sometimes a lot of these doctors, especially if they are not a private practice and just add some pushing pills, may be one of the most important truths you ever read. Yes, that is saying a lot, but it's that serious and also important to understand for the show topics tomorrow, and is essential to not just hear about but understand thoroughly if you truly wish to fully awaken, while also understanding one of not the most important tactics used by those who wish to control and ultimately break you in every way. No fear here, only accurate information that is long but has a measurable and immediate value if you try to consume this to understand and not just skim through in a quick read. Just because I'm putting it here instead of tomorrow's show is only a testament to its importance in going forward, rather than being not important enough, because I will still have to cover it, but I at least want to give people the opportunity to get more familiar, even if you think you understand it already. The topic is the difference between misinformation and disinformation, both in definition as well as application in real time. Now, even if you think you know the answer to this, I've seen many people explain it many different ways, but I will be explaining it purely from a counter-operational perspective, whose procedures have been used, perfected, and better hidden the past 8 to 10 years, especially with every year becoming exponentially more complex and dangerous. However, disinformation, and not as commonly misinformation, have been used throughout history and have obviously been conducted against us as citizens as well as us veterans. In fact, I don't think anyone has been immune to this in one shape or another. Do not let that allow yourself to minimize how dangerous disinformation truly is, and no matter what your level of understanding on disinformation, you have my word that if you read to the end, you will definitely get something solid out of this, as well as be that much more ready for the topics we will be covering tomorrow night.
Friday.
I've been writing this all night because I can't sleep due to how upset I get over this topic pick, and those who enable those in power and use any reason, like they have kids to feed. I think this was in the post that got deleted. Isn't it funny? Look at the evolution. These sites that are supposed to be 100% free speech, which I thought Telegram was, and that only Code Monkey that I knew was banned there, but I guess TJ too. And I know there were many others, because Code Monkey had a list and he was trying to help them back on through his platform. But here on YouTube, where you cannot find anyone, and I mean anyone, let's say you watched 2 years ago, how true is that? Whether it be Richie from Boston or Anthony Patch, who by the way were the first 2 to put me on, and I and anyone here could keep naming channels and personalities we loved listening to forever, and they are all gone yet. The one guy who thought he put me on, but really I put him on blast, Andy Blah, along with a couple others, most of all who I was talking about before, Iggy, and of course, my self-made seer. After I realized what he was all about, and found out so much, we made sure he got exposed by myself and people like Iggy on our channels, but with many others involved that did most of the light work, and you know who you are. It was only in his first couple months that he used to talk about all the risky stuff. Now talks about the stuff they like you to talk about for some reason, like aliens,
There's a
more
reason
aliens,
he's still around.
asteroids, and imp
Marfugo.
attacks, especially if you're selling imp shield. Basically, the one way you can get tripped watching him, especially now, is he is so blatantly following some type of guideline that is given to him that you know exactly what not to worry about, or read about, or look too deep into and look away from if he is talking about it. I don't have to spell it out, who I'm talking about, but it rhymes with first name, barf last name Google. Yeah, so he's not only still on YouTube of all places, still after pretending he had to move to D-Live, which was just a fake ploy to cover up his name, because we did a good job exposing him, but it's not like it's me who got the same word from my top two sources to lay low completely. Both are legit and have proven many times on this channel that the information they receive always comes true, so I obviously laid low, a long time both before and after I got a random BS strike after popping my head up for a video that I felt I had to do and found out how right they were. The way it goes at that point is when you get one, that means two more are coming, literally right away.
Strikes.
For all those months prior to laying low before receiving that warning phone, two different sources who happened to be the two best I had. I think my channel has generally been lucky, and to be honest, at the time I even thought I was somewhat protected, which I realize now is foolish after seeing some of the most powerful people in the world go down from Twitter, forget about YouTube. But my point is about this known snake, who uses anything he can to his advantage, including Christianity big time, but he talks and does a show every day and sometimes multiple times a day, and I never watch them, but you can tell a lot what it's about by the thumbnail and title, or sometimes I'm curious and I'll watch a couple of minutes and sure enough he's always talking about the same safe, government approved talking points.
Yep.
I mean, the way I look at it, if he would take $1,800 back in 2017 minus 18 to talk about a certain letter in the alphabet D1S1NFO only to run from it as fast as possible as soon as it became dangerous for his channel, then imagine what he would do for his channel's existence once it was finally huge, and in that short span having so many children, which was always the one thing that made me pause and hold back a little bit with him. But regardless, we had the definitive information, and still do, especially if a certain group of us got back together a little bit and talked. That would end all of the fraud and misguided fear porn, when there was plenty to truly, not fear but inform yourself while throw prep unless you depended on him. Unfortunately, the group of YouTubers with the best intentions that came together against him, we all had different opinions on presenting the loads of evidence and exactly how to do it. I wanted to take the slower route and do it right, and I'm not saying the other way wasn't wrong, because a lot of people got the information quick and many left that channel, but just IMO, I think literally one more month of planning and we could have ended that channel.
Yep.
Anyways, I bring that up because if I can make it to tomorrow's show without the channel getting taken down, not right away, but if I get in touch with even some of those same contacts, then well, the problem with being shady, yeah, and shady, especially against people who depend on you, is that information can be brought up at any time, no matter how many lawyers you threaten with, as long as it's real.
Yep.
But I went on way too long about that because it really makes my blood boil how many awesome people have no platform anymore, and any of them are invited onto mine if I still have it by tomorrow. Because at that point I have a plan. Also, I can't stand how everyone knows that old YT conspiracy theory has been becoming more realistic by the day, and it's funny how all the waves of purges of the real YouTubers that didn't go dormant, like me, now have no way to spread their informed and experienced message unless they planned very well. So what are people left with now? Well, what you're left with, let's say if you are curious about everything in the world that doesn't make sense and have heard YouTube has had some answers at one point, so that is where you go and find these cowardly government-approved truthers. Disinformation is their business and much more dangerous than misinformation from IMO, let's say flat earthers or Elvis alive believers. Most information is just incorrect information, hence misinformed, yet what the some propagandists and especially social media encourages is disinformation, or essentially propaganda, intended to purposefully and strategically feed you carefully crafted lies like the first type, which is misinformation or simply wrong information. The difference between misinformation and the next definition of disinformation is the intentional spreading of misinformation with intent to deceive and propagandize. This YouTuber avoids being precise, so nobody can claim he's wrong, but whether he knows it or is just an unwittingly controlled disinformation puppet, or just misinformed, isn't alone important or beneficial to the puppet master. Especially in my experience, when the truth is compartmentalized, which security-wise is a good thing, however on the ground level, among citizens, leaves huge questions with huge implications for us to discern on our own through these exact type of puppets that are mouthpieces, and nothing more to the government, as long as there are strings to their puppets, are attached indefinitely. Any government looking to deceive with propaganda through disinformation do not have to exactly craft the most careful story yesterday either, although here in the United States they definitely do try to. Even when and in fact, especially when the government approved information seems obviously false. There are smaller built-in disinfo tactics and propaganda elements as talking points, and perhaps most dangerously effective long-term disinformation which is not revealed. If ever for many, many years, and by then nobody is willing to admit either wrong, and that is the nature of disinformation. Deception and propaganda like barf and some misinformed guy who is simply wrong, and not nearly as harmful to society. The importance of understanding this speaks for itself, since this is basically 101 in working as an intelligence analyst, or as that is an operator who would be using somebody like I were. YouTube friend pretending to be a source, but really being a perfect disinformation agent. In the past 8 years more than ever and growing by the year, this disinformation is muddying the waters in such a dangerous way, with so many people waking up in 2020-2021 but asking the wrong questions. And listening to the wrong people, because, when they go on YouTube, or any favorite app with information, trying to find truth, I see people on there that actually believe his channel is the Compassa to the land of truth. In reality, you are being bombarded with carefully crafted disinformation, propaganda and deception, while the only place your compass of truth is pointing to is your wallet. It's really sad, man, which is why I should just shut up now so I can pull this off tomorrow and direct people somewhere tomorrow that I can speak freely so that my truth is clear, coherent, and correct. I have a lot to say, and I'm not screening calls with a sidekick who's dedicated his whole life working for companies as part of the problem and the planning, but out of nowhere he's decided to fight back, led by the biggest phony on YT. And of all times now, when it's actually potentially dangerous. Give me a break. It just keeps me up at night on nights like tonight, knowing how many new people who are starting to wake up would be better off asleep than following the fake truthers that exist on YouTube right now. Yet because they are just waking up, they don't know any better. Well, I'm gonna shut up now, because what they love to do is report other people. They are basically lefty Antifa pretend TR others whose every action and word scream they're blind to truth, sheeple, new age praying in a satanic steeple. Red Bull.
Well, I will see you guys Friday. Again, I'm just going to announce the show, put the link in the description, and we're going to get deep, raw, uncut, unfiltered. I don't have to worry about what I say. All you got to do is just click the link. All right, and there'll also be under that there'll be links if anyone wants to donate to PayPal or anything like that. But that's least important. Don't worry about doing that at all. It's there if you want to, but that's not what this is about. I find myself, and I know who to follow on YouTube. There is nobody left. Nobody. And that's why I think of all these new people coming and thinking they're learning truth. But the only people left are the ones who are spitting out this government propaganda, disinformation. It's so dangerous. And the really dangerous disinformation goes on for years. They plan long term. What they're doing now is for 2030. That's when I although it does feel like the big one's coming, right? I think it's going to be 2030. I mean, everything's pointing to that. I just think they had to speed up what they were doing because of Trump. I don't want to say too much. I can't lose this channel. And then if I just do what I see Blazing Press do, you put the link in the description, boom. You click it, you see me live on a different platform. I'll set up the whole studio, have the green screen, everything. I've been waiting to do that for so long. I can't wait. I hope I have a bad feeling, but that's the plan, guys. Friday, I'll put out an update, but let's say around 10 p.m. because it'll just be me. I'll make sure, my mother will take my daughter. I'll have no distractions, and we're going to get deep, folks. We're going to get deep. I've been researching a lot into this triangle, this Russian, Israeli, India, It's crazy. And what they're trying to do with water, making water out of thin air, it also works in reverse. So it's all coming for 2030, in my opinion. But I think they know the biggest obstacle is our Constitution and the patriots of this country. Think about who's being attacked. Think about who they go after. Christians, you know, they happen to go after white people, but it's not really about that. You don't have to be white. If you're just you love your country, you're a veteran, you believe in the Constitution, you believe in rights, you believe that the government shouldn't overreach, they should not infringe. It's pretty basic. I mean, that's what being a liberal used to be, in a way, you know, just acceptance and no government overreaching and infringing on your rights. Yet now it is commonplace. It is unbelievable. It is so bad that I'm like holding on to this dream that there's this operation behind the scenes. But fuck that. It's gone too far. I need to come out and just start doing videos. And the best way to do it is not like this. So I'm going to shut up. Is to put a link, and we're going to knock it off on Friday around 10 p.m. Red Pill Dispensary. Thank you for getting through that. It didn't work the way I hoped it would. I should have just read it instead of having it computerized. It didn't work out the way I hoped. The message didn't relay as I wanted it to. It didn't flow like I wanted it to. It was saying all the words wrong and double talking. Anyways, but at least you kind of get a peek into where we're going on Friday. I can't wait. Red Pill Dispensary. Salute. Thank you for the people who suffered through that too. Thank you. I'll see you guys Friday. All you gotta do is click a link, and then we can say whatever we want. I mean, it's that simple. That's how we keep alive and keep some truth on YouTube. We have to steer people in the right direction. People think that they think that they're learning things. Instead, there's so much. It's like a web of disinfo. It's tough. It's tough to get through the web. But when I don't know something, I just say I don't know it, or I'm not sure about it. I don't know which direction. You know, I'm not gonna just, you know. These people, they seem to have an answer for everything, which tells me they have an answer for nothing, and they have strings attached, literally. All right, salute.